Before starting this video, I do want to give a shout out to my patrons that support the channel. And if you'd like to support the channel, there are some great benefits for you if you want to look at the Patreon link down below. So with that out of the way, let's get into this week's video. What's going on YouTube? This is Devin coming back at you with another video today on PubStomp MTG. Glad to have you here. Today we're going to be looking at Drivnod Carnage Dominus. This is a really great creature for your Aristocrats decks. It essentially has the same keywords as Teysa Karlov. If a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So you're probably thinking to yourself, why run Drivnod when you have Teysa that's giving an extra color with white? Well, I like Drivnod a little better because it gives that ability of giving indestructible to him. Plus he's an 8/3, that's a commander lethal damage right there as long as you have 3 swings with him. Also, I did previously mention in my other videos on the Dominus cycle, I like the fact that you have less colors to work with. I feel like the less colors you have to work with will make more creative deck building. I mean, to be honest, this is just a straight up Aristocrats commander because obviously a lot of your creatures are going to be dying and you're going to get that double trigger off of them. Also on top of that, this looks like a sweet Dark Souls boss in my opinion. I played a couple of the games. I haven't finished them all completely because, I mean, it's pretty rage quittable in my opinion. I know one of my friends and cousins have played it as well, but I feel like this definitely represents what Dark Souls look like. So if you want to plan on building this deck or putting it in the 99, it's great either way. I'm going to be going over this card as a commander himself because I feel like it could be very powerful either as a commander lethal damage commander or just pinging your opponents to death because of death triggers. So first we need to discuss what kind of cards do we want to have in this deck. We want to make sure we have a lot of different creatures so that we can sacrifice so we can get that extra death trigger. So a couple creatures that came to my mind are making sure that we can get a lot of tokens on the battlefield like Bitter Blossom and Ophiomancer. These are great, especially with Bitter Blossom. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and put 1/1 Black Fairy Rogue creature token with flying into play. So this is just great overall so that we can get that consistency of getting a creature on the battlefield so that we can sacrifice. Also with Ophiomancer, if we don't have a creature on the battlefield that's a snake, on each person's upkeep, we can keep on getting so much value off of those snakes, sacrificing them at each turn. Also, I do really like Woe Strider. I think this is going to be a perfect card in this deck because it's also a sacrifice outlet. On top of that, it makes a 0/1 white goat creature token, and it could escape from the graveyard. Just in case if it is in the graveyard, we could put it back on the battlefield so we could get some more sack outlets. There are also a lot of non-token creatures to sacrifice in this deck, so we have a lot of different value engines that we could have in this deck that we can make sure we could add a lot of tokens on the battlefield like Ogre Slumlord and Sifter of Skulls. Essentially, when a non-token creature dies, these both have that great ability of putting a 1/1 Black Rat creature token on the battlefield or a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token on the battlefield. So I think these are both perfect so that we can get that recursion, and also they will double on the trigger because of our commander. Also on top of that, we do have Blightmound. This is a great card too because attacking pests you control get +1/+0 and have menace. I mean, we're not really going to worry about that so much, but this essentially gives us some redundancy, putting 1/1 black and green pest creature tokens on the battlefield. Also on top of that, when this creature does die, you gain 1 life. So we're actually going to gain 2 life off of that trigger because of our commander as well. Another great card I did want to mention is Pitiless Plunderer. I know it's kind of skyrocketed in price because of all the Aristocrat token strategies. Also because of this card, we could use our sacrifice fodder for extra ramp, making not just 1 treasure token, but making 2 as well. So this is just a great card overall to add to this list. So we're going to move along, and we're going to be talking about some great Planeswalkers to add to this list too, because there's some great Planeswalkers that honestly fit the theme here when we're sacrificing tokens, like Liliana Dreadhorde General. Whenever a creature you control dies, you draw a card, but with our commander, we're going to be drawing 2 cards. This makes a token, it sacrifices creatures, and also has a game-winning ultimate. I mean, it's not game-winning, but it's like very close. Like, you just know it's going to end really soon after that. Also, we do have Loth Spider Queen. This is just great overall because whenever a creature you control dies, put a loyalty counter on Loth Spider Queen. Because of our commander again, we're going to be getting 2 loyalty counters instead of 1. Gives us some card draw, gives us some tokens, and also has a great game-winning ability as well. Also, the last Planeswalker I do want to mention is Tavesh Zot, Doom of Fools. I just love this card so much. It's actually one of my favorite commanders of all time. I just love what it does. It gives us some card draw. It also gives us some throw tokens as well. 2 of them, in fact, for its +2. Just crazy. And also has that ability of gaining control of all commanders. Just a ridiculous Planeswalker in my opinion. Just a lot of value going around here. We do also want to make sure that we could have some great sack outlets, mainly free ones, but also some other ones that have some great value engineering, like Ashnod's Altar and Phyrexian Altar. Just giving us some mana is just a great ability alone right there. Also, I did want to talk about Skull Clamp as well. We have a lot of 1/1s in the deck, so right here, so we could easily just sacrifice one of our Thralls, for example, and then we could get some card draw off of that. So these are just fantastic cards to include as well. So with all these death triggers running around like crazy, whenever our opponent's creatures are dying or our creatures are dying, we need to take advantage of that with our commander because we're going to be doubling that. So I do want to bring up some all-stars in Aristocrat strategies. I wanted to bring the new Vran Executioner Thane. This is just a great card overall. Whenever one or more creatures you control die, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. This ability only triggers once each turn. I did want to put this in here because it is from the new set, so why not add it in here? It has a great death trigger, so we're going to be getting 4 life and our opponents are going to be losing 4 life. I did also want to mention some great, and I mean super fantastic, all-stars in the deck. These are very classic creatures that are usually in a lot of Aristocrat strategies like Zulaport Cutthroat, Blood Artist, and Bastion of Remembrance. All of these cards provide that great redundancy of our opponents losing life and we're gaining life. We're going to be getting double those triggers because of our commander. Whenever our creatures are going to be dying, these permanents are going to be triggering, so just a great card overall for each of these. Also, another great card to add on this list would be Massacre Worm. A lot of people are playing usually 1/1s or 2/2s on the battlefield, so we're going to be able to board wipe a lot of creatures. Also on top of that, we do have that great ability of whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, that player loses 2 life. Again, I'm going to keep mentioning this with our commander. It's going to be doubling up those triggers in general for each of our creatures. That's why I do want to mention it a little more than usual, because we're going to get so much value off of our commander doubling those effects. In the last section of this video, I do want to talk about some brutal cards you could add to this list, because I feel like these are definitely going to clear the board from your opponents at all times. So essentially we do have Butcher of Malakir, Dictate of Erebos, and Grave Pact. These all have that great ability of whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. And again, I'm going to keep bringing this up, but this is going to just double with our commander. Absolutely ridiculous. If someone has a big board, it's going to be cleared in no time. However, that's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and watching this video on this new Mono-Black commander, Drivnod Carnage Dominus. This is a really great card, and those Aristocrat strategies, like I've mentioned before, just having that ability to have the death triggers happen twice is just fantastic overall with a lot of your creatures. Also, this is probably one of the easier ones to give the indestructible counter on, because you just pay 2 Phyrexian mana, that's it, so you just pay 4 life, not a big deal, especially if you're going to gain a lot of life off of this commander. And on top of that, you're going to have a lot of creatures in the graveyard for sacrificing, so this is honestly going to be so easy to give indestructible compared to the rest. However, let me know down below, what are your thoughts on this commander? Do you feel like it's going to be a cool commander to play? Would you rather play Teysa instead? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you so much for coming by and watching this video again. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. That's definitely the best way to support the channel. And with that out of the way, thank you for stomping by.